So what are the top 5 Irish upcoming football prospects playing in the Premier League? When you think of Irish footballing prospects in the Premier League right now, there's probably few and far between. There's certainly a few names that catch the eye, there's a few names that we all pay attention to, and there's certainly a few names that could go on and have very good seasons in the Premier League. But when it comes to the Republic of Ireland and our national football team, we've probably had very few Premier League players in the last 10-15 years, very few players who've gone on and done it on a consistent basis and really been mainstays in the Premier League. Seamus Coleman maybe is one, and you think of the likes of Matt Doherty, who's obviously established himself as a Premier League player, and he even played abroad with Atletico Madrid in the last couple of seasons. But in this video, we're going to be looking at the top 5 Irish football prospects. I haven't really put an age limit on this as such. When I was making this video and thinking of the top 5 Irish players, I didn't want to make this video and then discuss players like Seamus Coleman and Matt Doherty and whatnot, because those players have already, we know what those players offer, whereas some other players on this list, we don't know exactly what they offer. Some of them we don't know exactly what they could offer, and there could be a lot of potential behind these players, and these players could really go on and have very good careers in the Premier League, and hopefully that's a reflection of where Irish football is at the moment. So we'll go from 5 to 1, and we'll start off with number 5, and that is Andrew Morin of Brighton. Now, Brighton and Hove Albion, as we very well know, have a great track record of producing young footballers, and there's obviously another Irishman who hails from a similar part of the country actually as Andrew Morin in terms of on the East Coast. And Brighton, to be fair, have a very good track record with these young players, and they're, you know, Roberto De Zerbi and Graham Potter previously to him had no reluctancy to put in these young players and throw them into the deep end. And Andrew Morin looks like he's going to be a real potential star for Brighton and hopefully Ireland in the future as well. The 19-year-old midfielder likes to play as a number 10, but he can also play the 8 role as well. He's a very versatile midfielder. He likes getting forward. He's made 2 senior appearances for Brighton, and he made his Premier League debut coming on against Everton during a win last season as a substitute. He scored 10 goals with the under-21 side last season, and from looking at clips of him, he looks like a very attacking midfielder, likes to get on the end of, you know, the forward balls going in there, and he looks like a very good footballer right now. He is young. He's attracted interest from the likes of Manchester United, Liverpool and Chelsea in the past, but he has signed a new long-term deal with Brighton and Hove Albion. And the thing about Brighton is that because they're producing so many great young players at the moment, because they're a club that is run so right, you look at it and think hopefully Andrew Morin will get more game time. The only thing is Brighton are a team with so many great players in the club, and you will wonder where those minutes will come from. Maybe with Brighton playing in Europe this season in the Europa League, that will give more time for a player like Andrew Morin to potentially get more game time. But hopefully we could see more game time from him, because he looks to be a real star and certainly a player to look out for in the future of Irish football, and certainly be interesting to see how his career goes from here. In at number 4, we have Dara OShea of Burnley, the man who spent 6 seasons at West Bromwich Albion and now signs for Vincent Kompany's Burnley. He's a very ball-playing, modern-day defender. He's very good with his feet, very good in possession. I think it's something that Ireland very much are craving for right now in terms of the way that we want to play and the way that Stephen Kenny obviously wants to play. He's got an eye for goal as well. He scored a couple of goals throughout his time at West Brom. Very tall, physical defender as well, and very good at set pieces, or very good at getting on the end of set pieces. He's made 19 appearances for Ireland's senior team as well, and it's going to be very interesting to see how he gets on in the Premier League. Obviously West Brom have been playing in and around the Championship the last couple of seasons, the second division, so it's going to be very interesting to see how Dara OShea gets on at Burnley. Will he be a regular at Burnley? That's going to be interesting to see. And obviously with the fact that Burnley play a very expansive attacking style football nowadays under Vincent Kompany, it's going to be interesting to see how Dara OShea does, and I think it's going to be interesting to see, so hopefully he can carry that on as well. In at 3, we have another Burnley footballer, and that is Michael Obafemi. He scored 4 goals in 32 appearances at Southampton, and I think a lot of people remember Michael Obafemi for breaking on the scene at Southampton a couple of seasons ago. It just never quite happened for him there. He didn't quite get a consistent run of game time, and obviously when Che Adams came into Southampton, Michael Obafemi was very much sort of left in the lurches and wasn't really getting regular game time. He did score 15 times for Swansea in an 18-month loan spell, and that caught the attraction of Vincent Kompany, who snapped him up in January of 2023. He scored twice in 12 appearances, and it's going to be very interesting to see, can he make that step up in the Premier League? Obviously, Ireland are not short of great strikers at the moment. It's probably the one position where we do have a lot of great depth on right now, and it's going to be interesting to see what kind of role Michael Obafemi can have with Burnley and possibly Ireland in the future as well. When he was in the Premier League with Southampton, it probably never happened for him consistently. You could also say, though, he didn't get a consistent run of game time when he was at Southampton. So it's going to be interesting to see how can he adapt to life in the Premier League with Burnley. As I said previously, they're going to be an attacking team. They're going to create a lot of chances, and I think that's going to suit someone like Michael Obafemi. And hopefully, touch wood, it goes to plan for him in the Premier League this season. In at number 2, we have Nathan Collins, who has recently signed for Brentford. He was their record signing for 23 million. Brentford snapping him up from Wolves. Nathan Collins has certainly been around a bit in the last couple of seasons. He was a fan favourite at Stoke City before joining Burnley for the 2021-2022 campaign. Then he was obviously snapped up by Wolverhampton Wanderers going into the start of last season. He made 26 appearances for Wolves. It was a difficult season for Wolverhampton Wanderers with different managers, different styles and everything else. Nathan Collins certainly had some good moments, some not so good moments. I remember him getting sent off in one of the games last season as well. But you can see he's a player with so much potential. Again, I think Ireland defensively could have, some very good centre-backs making the breakthrough, hopefully in the next couple of seasons. And I think with the way that Brentford play, that attacking style football, I think it's going to be interesting to see how Nathan Collins adapts to life as Brentford. He is their record signing. He's already played, of course, against Tottenham. He's going to be a regular in this Brentford team. And hopefully for him, he can have a very good season and sort of establish himself with this Brentford side, because he's moved around a couple of times in the last couple of seasons. He obviously wasn't very fancied by Lopetegui at Wolves, and obviously Wolves are having a bit of a crisis at the minute, getting rid of players and everything else. For Nathan Collins, he'll want to stick with Brentford now for the next couple of years and hopefully establish himself as a Premier League defender. And to be fair, he certainly has the ability to do so. Before we move on to number 1, we'll just run through some honourable mentions. So we have Tom Cannon of Everton. He made a couple of appearances last season. Definitely looks to be a player, most certainly for the future. We have Ogbeni on this list as well. Now, he isn't exactly a prospect as such. He is 27 years of age, 26 years of age, but he has recently signed for Luton Town and he will play Premier League football this season. And it's going to be very interesting to see how he gets on with Luton, because he is obviously a regular with the Irish football team right now. And I think it's great to see him have his moment in the Premier League. And one thing you'll say about Ogbeni, maybe he doesn't have the quality to be, a regular Premier League footballer over the next 5 to 6 years. But what he does have is the attitude, the work rate, and I think one of the reasons why he's a regular in the Irish team is because the man just puts in some shift every game, and he's up and down the pitch like an absolute racehorse. But I think in fairness, it's going to be very interesting to see how he gets on with Luton. We've Josh Cullen as well, who was a regular with Burnley. Again, he's probably not a prospect as such. He's been around the block for a good couple of years, but it's going to be interesting to see how he gets on with Burnley. He was a regular there last season. He made 44 appearances. So it's going to be interesting to see how he gets on. Caoimhin Kelleher, if Caoimhin Kelleher was playing regular football and he was starting, you would put him on this list most definitely, and you would look at him as, a player for the future and everything else. And even as a Liverpool fan, I think he is a good number 2 to Alisson, but I think it's to the detriment of his career, and it's to the detriment of, his Ireland career. And I just wonder why he doesn't want to make that move. There does seem to be a reluctancy of Caoimhin Kelleher and his camp. Is he happy being the number 2? Is he happy to, obviously be on good wages and everything else? And I think when we've seen Kelleher at times at Ireland and everything else, it hasn't really gone to plan. And a part of me does wonder, is he actually good enough to be an Ireland number 1? I think you have Gavin Bazunu as well, who hopefully, things can go well for him with Southampton after a very difficult season last year, obviously playing in the Championship this season. But I think for Kelleher, I often wonder and I look at it and I think, is he a Premier League goalkeeper? Does he think he's a Premier League goalkeeper? Maybe he doesn't actually believe he is a Premier League goalkeeper, and that's why he's happy to be the number 2 and he's happy to just take the money. Do you know that way? But I don't know. It'd be great to see Kelleher get a move to another Premier League side and see him play consistently, because look, he's had some great moments in a Liverpool shirt, don't get me wrong, but I think he hasn't done it consistently. And I think for a goalkeeper, that's what you want to see, is a goalkeeper do it consistently. And unfortunately, we haven't seen that from Kelleher because he hasn't got the games. So it's a lot of unknowns with Kelleher, but he's going to be staying there for this season. Hopefully by next season he does get a move, because as I said, look, as a Liverpool fan, I'm happy for him to be the number 2. But as an Irish football fan and as an Irishman, it's not good for him to be the number 2, and he needs to be playing, in my opinion. Another honourable mention is John Egan of Sheffield United. Now, John Egan's been around the block for a couple of years. He was obviously part of Sheffield United's team a couple of years back as well when they were in the Premier League. He's not necessarily a prospect as such. He's been around the block, but it's going to be interesting to see how he gets on with Sheffield United this season. I think it will be difficult for Sheffield United, especially with the lack of investment that's been in the squad this season, and they could really struggle. But hopefully John Egan can have a good time and a good season with Sheffield United this year. And in at number 1 then, it is the obvious Evan Ferguson of Brighton. I think this one is absolutely nailed on. He's number 1 by an absolute country mile. And to be honest with you, like, I think Evan Ferguson, I can't remember ever there being more hype around an Irish footballer. Like, I kind of look at it and I think, like, and I've been speaking to people who were around, like my dad and everything else. I've been speaking to people who were around when Robbie Keane broke on the scene, when Roy Keane broke on the scene, and speaking to Irish football fans who've been watching the Premier League for longer than me, and they've been saying, like, Evan Ferguson is possibly the best Irish footballer to break through in the last couple of years since the likes of Robbie and Roy Keane. And, you know, like, and to be fair, like, when you look back in the last 10-15 years, and my generation of Irish footballers who obviously got to Euro 2012 and Euro 2016, like, there was a few players who broke through, like, don't get me wrong, obviously Seamus Coleman is certainly one. You've had the likes of Robbie Brady, Glenn Whelan, who became a regular with Stoke City, but you haven't really had anyone of the quality of Evan Ferguson, in my opinion. And, you know, even going back to the dreaded Stephen Ireland, like, there was a lot of hype around him, to be fair, when he first broke into the Irish team. Obviously that did not go according to plan for his career and for Ireland obviously as well, but there was a lot of hype most certainly around him, and there's been hype around other players like Kevin Doyle when he broke through with Reading, and a couple of other players down the years. But I just don't remember there ever being this amount of hype around a player like Evan Ferguson, and especially at his age as well. He became the youngest Irish goal scorer in the Premier League when he scored against Arsenal in December of 2022. He scored a further 5 goals as well, and he's already bagged 1 this season as well when he scored against Luton Town. He is a generational talent. He also hails from the same club that I played for, St. Kevin's, believe it or not. So there you go. We've certainly gone in 2 different directions since, but there definitely is a lot of hype around this player. There's been rumours linking him to the likes of Tottenham and even abroad as well. Bayern Munich were apparently interested in him. I hope he stays at Brighton over the next couple of years, becomes a regular in the Premier League. Like, there have been players who've threatened to look good in the last couple of years. Troy Parrott, Aaron Connolly, these kind of players. But Evan Ferguson just feels a bit different. He's got everything you want in a striker. He's got that physical presence in and around the box. Finishing is very good. Link-up play is brilliant. He's got pace. He's definitely got the potential to not just be one of the best Irish players in the Premier League, but possibly one of the best strikers in the Premier League over the next 5 to 6 years. And touch wood, you know, he doesn't get injured or nothing happens with him or anything like that. And hopefully he can go on and be a serious talent for this Ireland team and in the Premier League as well. A lot of hype around him. And let me know in the comments down below, like, is he the best Irish player to break through since Robbie Keane, Roy Keane, Damien Duff, these type of players? I definitely put him in the same conversation as those type of players. Obviously, he is still very young, and, you know, time will tell whether he can do this at a consistent basis. But from what I've seen so far, he definitely has the talent to do so. So, look, it's going to be very interesting, and hopefully, from an Evan Ferguson point of view, and from, you know, as an Irish football fan, he can go on and do big things, because the Irish national football team really needs it, to be honest with you. It's been a long time since we've had a player of this nature break into the Premier League. Anyway, we'll wrap this up here. Leave a like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments down below who you think are the top 5 Irish footballers in the Premier League right now, or the top 5 Irish footballing prospects. And yeah, let me know in the comments down below if you enjoyed the video. Hit the like button and subscribe. We'll see you all soon.